All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's your girl, Coach Takara Nicole, and we are back with another Build Better Wednesday. And so, I got, like I told you guys, every Wednesday, I'm gonna do my best to come on here and be consistent. This is y'all are holding me accountable to my assignment. And so part of me being held accountable to my assignment is coming here every Wednesday. And so again, this previously was the Go Moment. But the name is now changed to Build Better Coaching Series, and just coming on here to give you guys some tips and some ideas, how to build better, not just in your life, but how to build better also in your business. So listen, share this live with someone, tell someone to hop on. You can always go back and catch the replays. We're going to be live on Facebook and YouTube as well. And so these are just moments for us to, good morning, for us to build better. At any moment, if you have questions about anything I'm talking about, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Of course, you guys know if you got comments or anything you would like to say, feel free, drop it in the comment. Today, I'm talking about get it out of your head, right? And so I know sometimes we're like, what does that mean? What does that look like? But I want to let you guys know what that looks like in real time. So listen, really quickly, I want you guys share this live with someone. I want to share with a couple people. I want you guys to share it because it's going to help somebody today. All right. So let's go. Let's get some more people in the room really quickly. Okay. Hopefully you guys are having a great morning. I'm not gonna be here long. Listen, I know I gotta get in, get out. But I'm committed to helping you guys build whatever you're trying to build, whether you're trying to build your life, whether you're trying to build a business, whether you're trying to build a ministry, strengthening your household. Again, everything that I'm teaching is also always the foundation of things. So you could be better. All right, so today's topic it's about get it out of your head. And it's not in the way that I think most of you would probably think that I'm getting ready to talk about this. But one of the things that I find with people is that now I hear the phrase like I have so many ideas, right? If it's you, say that's me. I have so many ideas, so many things that I want to do. I have so much. And sometimes you can have so many ideas that you are exhausted. Good morning, Leah. You are exhausted, right? And so get it out of your head. So your mind was created to generate, process, and discern ideas, right? But it is not created to be the permanent storage space of everything that you're trying to build. All right. So your mind is going to generate ideas. You're going to see things. You're going to capture moments. But you generating ideas, capturing moments, being able to discern ideas, it was never meant for you to keep it in your head. All right. So you cannot build what you refuse to capture. Right. And I'm going to teach you about that this morning. What does that look like? So some of us aren't overwhelmed because we have too much to do. We're overwhelmed because we're trying to mentally carry everything that we need to remember, consider, decide, develop, and execute. All right, I'm going to say that again. You're not overwhelmed because you have too much to do, right? You're overwhelmed because you're trying to mentally capture, right? Carry, remember, decide, develop, and execute everything inside of your head, right? And it's just not, it's really not possible for you to capture the idea and then execute the idea in your head at the same time while you're still trying to balance and discern and consider and understand all the rest of the ideas that are now going through your head. All right, y'all stay with me. So a scripture that I hear people say all the time, one of my favorite scriptures, and it was the foundation of a lot of my coaching, is Habakkuk 2 and 2, right? Habakkuk 2 and 2. I'm going to get the King James version because I'm always in message. And it tells us, and the Lord answered me and said, write the vision, right? And make it plain upon tables that he may run that readeth it. Right. So you have to write the vision. I hear people say this all the time, to write the vision to make it plain, but I don't think we actually execute it, right? We say it, but I don't know if we actually do it. So the instructions were to write it, to make it plain, and then run, right? And one thing you guys know I've been teaching us about is that we try to run before we write. right? You're trying to run with what's in your head. But what's in your head is not always, write this down. What is in my head is not always a complete thought, right? It's an idea, it's a moment, it's a consideration, it's something that you captured. You ever went down the street and you're like, oh, I see a problem, right? And you're like, oh, there's a tree, and it needs this, and I see this, and I see that, right? You capture moments, you consider things, you have things in your head that you may, as you go in life, even see. Some things many of you been sitting on were moments that you captured years ago, right? And so sometimes the execution part, some of you may feel like, I'm going to help somebody. You may feel like you're behind, or maybe even what you're trying to build is not even conducive for what you see right now. And it's because a lot of times what we see is moments that we captured in that moment, right? And so maybe 10 years ago, that might have been a problem. But maybe 10 years now, it's not a problem no more. And so some of us are even trying to execute ideas that we captured years ago. And because you did not know how to you didn't know how to execute it, you didn't know how to write it out, you didn't know how to create a plan around it, it actually doesn't make sense for what we're living in right now. All right, so again, get it out of your head. If you're just now joining us, click the like button, the share button, the hearts. Today we're talking about get it out of your head, right? So it clearly tells us in Habakkuk 2 and 2 to write it, to make it plain, and then run. To write it, to make it plain, and then run. If any of you are asking, how do I execute what I'm trying to do? The play is right here. You're gonna write it, you gotta make it plain, and then you gotta run, right? You can't just write it out and then run without making it plain. Those of you that missed it, we're gonna do it again. We did a webinar entitled Vision Without Structure is Frustration, right? And so during that, we worked in real time, and I showed you guys, how do you capture your idea? How do you make your idea plain? And then giving you the tools that you need to run with what you see. All right. And so, again, the principles that I'm teaching you are not just business, are not just ministry, not just for entrepreneurs, but this is life, right? Because oftentimes we can even see a vision for how you see your house. You can see a vision of how you see your living room. And it's always in your mind. But until you put that thing on paper and you plan it out, right? It doesn't give you something to run with. Have you ever gone to the grocery store without a list? And when you go to the grocery store without a list, you start throwing stuff in the cart that don't make sense. Right? You got chicken, but you forgot the rice. You got the rice, but you forgot the chicken. You got all the condiments, but you don't have no meat. You got all the starches, but you don't have no vegetable, right? Because you didn't have a plan, right? You had a thought in your mind about what you wanted to cook, but however, you did not have a plan for what you wanted to do. So what did you do? You seen it, you wrote, and you started to run, right? But what happens is when you see it and you run, it becomes confusion. It becomes chaotic. You miss major points. Have you ever seen a recipe online? Listen, I'm gonna help y'all today. You ever seen a recipe online and you was like, "Ooh, that looks good," right? And in your mind, you try to, in your mind, remember everything that you've seen. You try to remember everything that you've seen, right? I seen the chicken, I seen the onions, I seen the green pepper, but there were certain things that you missed, right? Because you tried to keep everything inside of your head. And so, what you did not realize is you were trying to remember the recipe and trying to remember that your child had soccer practice, right? You were trying to remember the recipe and remember that you had to go to work on time. You was trying to remember the recipe and remember all the things of life that you had to remember. So it is possible, hear me, that something is going to fall through the crack, because it's impossible for you to remember every single detail about every single thing and execute it with precision without writing it down. All right. So step number one is write it down. If you're taking notes, write it down. Thank you, Leah. Leah said it was such a transformative webinar. I'm actually making progress and not just busy. I love it. All right. So write it down. All right. I'm giving you real life examples about what that looks like. And so the grocery store example is a real life of what your life looks like, right? Because in your mind you see what your business looks like, what you want your life, good morning Tanya, what you want your life to look like we have all of these real life things that we see, right? But the problem is that you're also trying to build a business and build your home up at the same time. You're gonna be confused. So you gotta write it down. So it gives us three instructions: to write it out, make it plain, then run. All right. Some of y'all gotta stop running. Y'all gotta slow down. I told you guys that last week, right? You need to slow down. You need to create a plan. One of the best things that I ever did was I learned how to write a list before I went to the grocery store. When I tell y'all I saved so much money, even my son was like, Mom, look at your grocery bill. You know why? Because I started planning my meals. I knew what I was eating for dinner every single day. I knew all the ingredients that I needed to make sure that I had everything. So I did not overbuy. I didn't buy things that I did not need, right? I'm just like, for some of y'all, you're like, oh, I want to decorate my house. I want to redo my house, right? You need to have a plan. Just don't go into the store. You just go on Walmart. You just throwing stuff inside of your cart. And next thing you know, your cart is $2,000. Your cart $3,000. And you're like, then you look up, you're like, what do I buy? What did I buy? Or you're like, oh, this doesn't even match this. This doesn't even go with this. This doesn't even align with this. But this is what our life looks like in real life, right? We see it and we go without a plan. We're wasting time, wasting money. And so again, one of the biggest time savers and money savers for me has been planning out my meals. I'm so intentional when I go in the grocery store. I'm getting enough of what I need for what I am cooking for that night or for that week. Really, for that week. Okay. So that I don't overspend, I don't rebuy. I make sure that I do a good assessment of what is already in my pantry. What do I already have? Listen, some of y'all need to ask yourself, what do I already have in my deep freezer? I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here, right? What do I already have in my deep freezer? Why do you keep buying the same meat every single time you go to the grocery store? But can I tell you that's what your life looks like, though, right? You keep doing the same thing over and over. You keep making the same mistake over and over. You keep writing down the same goal over and over with no plan, wasting time. You wasted 15 minutes of your life writing down that same goal that you've been writing down for the last 10 years. You wasted 15 minutes of your life instead of taking that 15 minutes and actually creating a plan around the goal that you wrote down. All right. Listen, I'm just here to help us build better. That's all. All right. Let me move. Let me go. I got to get out of here. All right. So there is progression here, right? So you capture it. That's the writing. You clarify it. That's making it plain. And then he says, then run. That's the execution. All right. I told y'all when I started my coaching, it was based off of Habakkuk 2 and 2, right? Write it, make it plain, run. All right. So we capture it, we clarify it, and we execute it. So you got to get your thoughts out of your head. You have to capture the thought. You have to clarify the thought, right? You have to bring clarity to what you see, because sometimes everything of what you see is not even always something that you're able to even execute. I remember somebody coming to me and she said, she wanted to create this type of chair. And I told her, I said, is this a you problem or is this a everybody problem? Right? Because before you invest all of your time and money into building this, you have to really realize, is this a problem that everybody has? Is this a problem that people are going to buy into? Is this even a problem that people see is a problem? Right, before you invest your time. So sometimes the clarifying aspects of what you are building and the clarifying aspects of what you see help you to understand if this is even something you can do. Right, this is why budgets are important. Budgets are not something to keep you in bondage. Budgets give you freedom. Budgets actually allow you to know, what can I afford? Because sometimes when you start to really look into your budget, when you start to really look into your money, you really start to see, man, I got more money than what I thought. It really helps you to see, where am I wasting money? Because it wasn't until you looked and you said, you know what, I don't even need all these subscriptions, right? When you really looked, you was like, I don't even really need, to keep buying all this, or I'm really spending too much money in this area. I'm really doing too much here. So where we look at budgets, when we budgets as being bondage and like, oh my God, I'm on a budget. No, budgets are actually freedom. It shows me what I can afford. It shows me the future too, of what I am capable of and what I can do. All right. So capture it. I got the idea that I want to buy a new house. Okay, cool. But let's bring clarity to what you see. What can I actually afford? Right. And if I can't afford it right now, what do I need to do so that I can afford it? All right. I see this business, but let me bring clarity to what I see. Who do I serve? Maybe I don't serve, children. Maybe I just serve adults. Maybe I just serve women. I don't serve men. Or maybe I serve men and I don't serve women. I got to bring clarity. Y'all hear me this morning. You got to bring clarity before you start running. You didn't ran off with this idea and you got a website and you got a logo. And now you got to go back and you got to regroup because your logo and your website don't represent who you serve. That's because you captured it, but you didn't bring clarity to what you captured. Get it out your head. Get the thought out your head. Super important. Get the thought out of your head. All right. So the vision must be captured. All right. So we love talking about having vision, but vision is it only exists in your head, right? Is the difficult part, right? Vision, it only is right here. And so that's the hard part about vision is because it's only in your head and it's not on paper. So you wake up with the idea, you see something in your dream, you go buy something, you see something at lunchtime, but it's hard for you to really remember without capturing what you see. So thinking about something is not the same as building it. If you can, I know some of you at work, but if you can, drop that in the chat. Thinking about something is not the same as building it. Thinking about it is not the same as building it. I can see this brand, I can see this ministry, I can see this business, right? I can see even things I want to do in my home, upgrades I want to do, but thinking about it is not the same as building it. All right? So your mind is becoming cluttered. So you think about everything you are clearing it mentally, right? Business, bills, appointments, kids, emails, content, people you need to call, things you need to buy. Thank you, Tanae. Ideas, problems, goals, things you're praying about, things you're worrying about, things somebody asked you to remember, right? And then you wonder why you are mentally exhausted. Thank you, Taryn. Right? So I'm telling you to get it out of your head because you're carrying so much already in your mind. Kids, bills, content, church, work, your own imperfections, your own insecurities, all the things are in your mind. So some of us, we are so mentally exhausted, and that's why you have not executed. So your brain is trying to hold unfinished business. All right. That's why you are sitting somewhere and then you suddenly remember and you be like, dang, I forgot. Right. I've done that. That's why I utilize notes in my phone. That's why I utilize a calendar. That's why I put it in my calendar to do X, Y, and Z, the smallest things, right? Even put this build better. It's on my calendar. Why? Because I can look at this time and think, oh yeah, I got Wednesdays open. Not even thinking and remembering, like, girl, you got build better on Wednesdays at 8:30. But I'm like, oh, I got this time open. Even in coaching, I was telling my client the other day, I said, I have to be consistent. So our coaching has to start after I come out of Build Better. Why? Because I want to be consistent. But I know that because it's on my calendar. So when I'm going to go book her, I'm like, wait a minute, my 8:30 to 9:30 is already blocked off. Right? Even though this is not an engagement, I'm not being paid for this. It's something that I want to be consistent with. And because I want to be consistent with it, I put it on my calendar. Some of you guys need to do an assessment of your calendar. If it's not on your calendar, it's not real. Because you'll see an open space and you like, you know what? I got time at this time. I can come, I can show up, I can come to breakfast, I can go there. But this time it's already blocked. If someone asks me for this, nope, I cannot. I can't make it. I won't be there. Why? Because this is what I have purpose in my mind. This is in alignment with my goals. And if you missed the webinar, I'm gonna do it again. You got to make sure you get on. I say we should be doing something every single day, right? That aligns and gets us closer to our goals. Breakfast may not get me closer. Now, it may get me closer to my friend, right? But it may not get me closer to my goals. And right now, there's some things I need to do because my time is limited that I'm trying to get closer to my goals. So this is a priority for me, right? Y'all say this is a priority for me. You gotta get used to saying, man, this is so good to me. You got to get used to saying, this is a priority for me, right? This is a priority for me. If you don't get used to saying, this is a priority for me, the things that you really want to do, you will continue to be in the same place. All right, I got to keep going. All right. You cannot build what you cannot see. All right. You can't build what you cannot see. Something changes when you take what is in your head and you put it in front of you, which is why we got vision boards, which is why people create planners. This is why people have different dry erase boards. I know I do. I love them. Because when I write it out, that's it today. When I write it out, when I can see it in front of me, now it becomes tangible. Right? The reason why many of you, are struggling in your execution is because until you write it out, it does not look tangible, right? It doesn't look like it's something you could do. So if it's always in your head, it's always still yet a vision, and you have not made it plain, it is not tangible. If you're taking notes, write that down. It's not tangible. All right. So when you write it out, when you get it out your head, now you can see it. Once you can see it, you can do the work. All right. So these are the things that you have to do. You have to organize it. You have to prioritize it. You have to research it. You have to budget for it. You have to schedule for it. You have to delegate for it. You have to improve it, break it into steps, execute it. Right. So if you see in your mind that, I want to start a business, right? You got to organize it. What are the things that I need for this business? You got to make it a priority. Every Monday and Wednesday, I'm going to work on my business, right? I got to research it. I'm going to take time on Monday and Wednesday. It's going to be the time that I sit down and I'm going to research this business. Who's already doing what I'm doing? How close are they? What are the demographics of what I'm building, right? Who around me is doing what I'm doing? Like all of those different things. How much does it cost? If I get a building, what does it cost? If I do it at home, what does it cost, right? So I am actually putting what I see right into action. I'm clarifying it. I'm being very clear about what it is that I see. It's gone from in my head to on paper. All right. Breaking it into steps. So this is where an idea starts to become a project. So the idea, right? Then it's captured, then there's clarity, then there's a plan, then there's a process, and then there's execution. All right. Thank you guys. If you're just now joining, today we're talking about getting it out of your head. Exactly. Being intentional is exactly what we're doing. So it cannot, your ideas can't live in your head. It's like I tell you all the time, your systems can't live in your head, right? Your kids don't know if you don't tell them, and you mad because they're not executing what you want them to do, but you also didn't tell them what to do. It's the same thing with your life. You have to give your life direction, right? I want you guys to recite this. I am the CEO of my life, right? We always think about the CEO of businesses, but please understand that you are the CEO of your life. And because you are the CEO of your life, you have to run your life accordingly, right? You have to run your life accordingly. And so running your life accordingly means that I have to make sure that whatever is in my head becomes on paper so that I can see it, so that it's real. All right. So not everything in your head is an idea, right? This is important to understand, right? Some people say, I have so many ideas, right? But do you? Do you really have ideas? Because some of what you're carrying in isn't actually it isn't actually an idea yet. Okay. So it might be a thought, a possibility, a problem, a desire, a observation, right? A question, a concern, an incomplete thought, right? There's so many people you see so much online. You're like, oh, I could do that. I could start a t-shirt business. I could start crocheting. I could do this, right? So you have all of these things that you're capturing, right? But it's not a complete idea until you bring clarity around what you see, right? Until you bring clarity around what you see, it's not a complete idea. It's just an incomplete thought. And so a lot of times people say, like, I have so many things I want to do in my head, right? And that's great. I'm glad you have so many things that you want to do in your head. But until you get them on paper, until you bring clarity around what you see, there's still going to remain all the things that you see in your head. And they're things that you will never execute. Some things you don't even realize will free your life up, right? Will free up your mental space, because sometimes when you bring clarity to it, you'll realize this ain't even something I need to be doing. But it's still taking up space in your head as an idea. But until you bring clarity to it, it's not really a complete thought. All right. All right. So because you haven't captured it, you haven't had the opportunity to develop it, right? So maybe I should start a podcast, right? That's not really an idea. I'm going to help you, right? It is an it's an Sorry, it's an uncaptured idea. So here's the thing. I want to start a 20-minute weekly podcast for entrepreneurs where I teach them one practical execution strategy every Monday. Y'all see the difference? Right? I should probably start a podcast. All right, I should probably. There's no clarity around that. So after we've said that, okay, now we've made progress. There's some substance here. There's something that we can develop. There's something that we can work towards. It's something that we can actually put an actual plan around. All right. I'm gonna keep going because we gotta go. All right. Any moment, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. All right. Paper gives you somewhere to think. All right. So this is why people always say, like, go journal, and it sounds like who wants to journal, right? But journal helps you to bring clarity to what's in your head. And some of you don't realize that your mind is going around and around. You're exhausted. You're all over the place because there's no clarity to what you see in your mind. Excuse me. So that's exactly what putting it on paper does. The therapist is going to tell you to journal it, right? Get it out of your head. After you get it out of your head, now we can bring clarity to the thought. So if you're like, you know what, I experienced da 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 when I was growing up. Once you start to write it out, right? Things also become clear. You start to remember certain things, right? Things start to come back to you. You're able to complete the thought, not just, okay, well, blah, something happened to me when I was younger, but this is what happened to me when I was younger. And when it happened, blah, 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 this is who was involved. This is what happened. Because as I begin to write it out, things begin to become very clear for me about what actually happened in that moment, right? It's a difference between I want to start a business and saying I want to start a business where I'm helping young girls become better in what they're building, or I want to empower young girls from the ages of 9 to 15. That sounds very different than just saying I want to start a mentor group. Okay? Or maybe I'll start a mentor group. Or I see that these young girls need help. All right, seeing that they need help, but let's bring a clarity and a plan around what you see. I see these young men need help. Cool. All right. It's one thing to see it, it's another thing to clarify what you see. All right. So you're giving yourself somewhere to process this, right? So I need to do something about my mornings is an incomplete thought, right? But what is wrong with my mornings? Is what I begin to write out, right? Because I'm writing out for clarity. So I have to do something about my mornings. I'm going to help you. So then I ask myself, what is wrong with my mornings, right? I'm rushing. Why am I rushing? Right? I'm making too many decisions in the morning. Okay. What decisions can be made earlier? Clothes, breakfast, schedule, kids, what I need to take with me. Now we can create something, right? So the night before routine means I get my clothes out, I review my calendar, breakfast is decided, and my bags are already packed. So what started out as I need to do something about my mornings turns into a execution plan, right? Because I wrote it out. So I'm writing it out. I'm like, you know what? Hey, all right, my mornings are all over the place. I keep thinking in my mind, they're all over my place. But then I got to write it out. What's really wrong with my mornings? What can I do better? How can I improve? Now I can actually create a plan to now make my mornings better because I decided to bring clarity around my thought. All right, does this make sense? Y'all say yes in the chat. All right. Not everything you capture deserves to be executed, right? So this is where people get in trouble. Getting everything out of your head doesn't mean do everything. All right. So capture first, then decide. There are some things, a thing that you probably heard before that I tell a lot of my clients to do is to brain dump, right? Get it out of your head, all the things that you want to do. I'm not asking you to give me a plan around it. I'm not asking you to tell me what you're going to do. What I want you to do is get everything out of your head, everything that you see, right? And then we decide. And so what I tell them is I say, tell me everything that you want to do. And then what we do is we say, what are the top 3 priorities based off of everything that you wrote down? What is something that you can do right now in this moment? If anybody is on the line and they're like, I got a lot of ideas, I'm gonna tell you to brain dump first. Get them out your head. And then you begin to assess them. What is something that I know that I can accomplish within the next 90 days, right? Just declutter. Exactly. What is something I can do in 90 days? What is something I tell them, what can I do in the next 6 months? What is something I can do in the next 12 months? What is something I can do in the next year? That's how I begin to analyze what it is that I decide to do. So capture first, write it all out, then you decide what you're going to do. Don't write it out and then you're trying to write out a plan for everything that you see, because every idea that you have, again, is not meant to be executed or you're able to execute. All right. So, because once everything is outside of your head, now you can evaluate it, right? Without you, because sometimes I told you guys last week about our own thinking, right? The story I told us last week. If you missed last week, you got to go back and watch last Wednesday. It was so good. It was about the story that we tell ourselves, right? And how we build strategy around the story that we tell ourselves. And so this week, I want us to understand that the when we're talking to ourselves, and the thoughts that we have going back amongst ourselves aren't always the wise this decision. So that's why you got to write it out, because sometimes in your head you're like, oh, I see this and I can do it, I got the time to do it. And it's not until you write it down and you see everything that it's going to take for you to do it and you bring clarity to it, do you actually realize that you don't actually have the time that you thought you have. Because mentally, right, as you go throughout your day, you think you got time, but you really don't. Okay, you're just talking to yourself. And so that's why you got to write it down to bring clarity to it. So develop it. There's something here, but it needs more thought. All right, so that's why you got to write it down, right? That's the development phase, because I know it's something here, but then I also need to bring clarity around what I see. All right. um let's see. Some things have to be delayed, right? So sometimes you may have an idea, and after you've gotten everything out, you may say, maybe this is something I can do in the next year. Maybe this is not something I need to work on right now. I think the hardest part about building, guys, is that oftentimes we think everything that we see is an emergency, right? Every thought that we get is a right now thing. Now, I struggle with this between me and God. I'm gonna be honest, because I feel like God gives me stuff and I'll be like, God, do you really want me to execute this thing right now? Or can I do this later? And the harder parts is when there's some things that God, now this is where Holy Spirit comes in, right? For those of you that are faith, that believe in Holy Spirit, and whatever, if you don't, it's okay too. Whatever you believe in, right? So this is where the hard parts come in, because this is where we relinquish our own thoughts. Right. So I write it out, but I still leave room for Holy Spirit. I write it out, but I still allow him to lead. I write it out, but I still say, hey, listen. And so even when I wrote my book, Get This Baby Out of Me, right, I was not planning on writing Get This Baby Out of Me when I wrote Get This Baby Out of Me. Okay. But the Lord was like, no, I need you to release this book right now. So the thing that I was working on, I was actually in real estate school at the time. I had to put real estate school to the side, which is what something I wanted to do. And I thought that was something that I should be doing right now in this moment. I had to put real estate school to the side so that I could Get This Baby Out of Me. Right. So this is where the understanding of, like, I write it down, I write the vision, I make it plain. All right, Lord, this is it. And I surrender my plans to you. I surrender my will to you. Like, I thought my timeline was, I would move within a year, right? I wasn't planning on moving right now. But again, Holy Spirit was like, no, it's time for you to shift. I knew it was time to shift during consecration. I remember I was in consecration and I was praying one morning, and the Lord was like, it's time for you to go. And I was like, now listen here, Lord. Do you know everything that's on my plate right now? I'm just now getting settled the way that I want to get settled. And then here comes Holy Spirit, like, nope, it's time for you to go. And so the harder parts too is not the harder parts, but the other struggle is leaving space for Holy Spirit, because I know that I wrote my vision. I know what I want for my life, right? I know that I love Savannah. Do you understand what I'm saying? When I say I love Savannah, I love Savannah. I never thought that I would be the one to say I love Savannah, but I love it, right? But Holy Spirit was like, no, but you got to move. And so, even in what we're writing, I'm not telling us that as you write that we don't leave room for him to speak and for him to move, but you have to give him something to work with. at the same time. All right. So even sometimes everything that we see might not be for a right now moment. And maybe something that you're supposed to do later on, and maybe something you're going to do in a year. Maybe you actually don't even have the capacity to do it right now. There are some things that I know, like I do eventually want to go back to real estate school. But the reality is that I got to make sure that I have the capacity because real estate school is very intense. Okay. If you ever gone through it, if you ever looked through it, if you ever done the program, it is intense. You got, it's a lot of stuff you have to remember. And although I knew a lot of it, there were still some missing moments. Okay. So again, even though it's something I desire to do, it's not a it will never happen. It's just it's a not right now type thing. All right. So every idea that you say, when I'm telling you to get it out of your head, just those of you that are joining, the topic today is get it out of your head. And I'm teaching you about learning how to not keep all of your ideas and your visions in your head. But the Bible tells us to write it, make it plain, and run, right? And so what I'm teaching you today is that you have to capture it, which means to write it down. You have to clarify and then execute. All right. And then again, there's some things like I was telling you earlier that you simply have to delete, right? Deleting something is also a decision, right? There are some things I thought about doing, and yes, it might have been like a thought. I seen it, I liked it, but then I was like, you know what? This might not be something for me, right? Everything that you see might not even be everything for you to build. It might not be meant for you to build. You're just able to see it, and that's fine. You know, our human eye, especially when you have certain giftings, right? Like I have the gift of administration, right? I have the gift of wisdom, right? I have the gift of knowledge. I know those things. I am, you know, in many ways as an apostle, right? So I'm a builder. I tell anybody I can build anything. There aren't really any limits to what I see. If I see it and I know I'm going to go after, I know I can do it. And I had to learn that just because you know you can do it doesn't mean you should do it, right? Everything is not for me to build just because I see it. There are sometimes God gives me things that I give to other people to build. So you have to be able to discern even when you're seeing things, because a lot of us have these giftings. Like we get, you know what I'm saying? Like when you're a builder, it just comes easy. When you're an admin, it just comes easy. Like when you have wisdom, it just comes easy. There's some things that come easy to us. But just because it comes easy to us and it's a good idea doesn't mean it's a God idea, right? And so you have to be able, even to be able to discern what you capture. Because I am a builder, when I go into spaces, I'm always looking and I'm seeing. Like I can't turn my mind off, right? I don't know if I'm the only one on the line. If it's you two, say it's me, right? When you have the gift of admin like today, when you go into spaces, you're always looking to see how can this be better, right? And then you have to realize, is this even my assignment? Is this even for mine to build, right? I've even gone to, and this is the honest to God truth, right? Y'all know I'm transparent. Even going sometimes into churches, right? Because I know my gifting. And so sometimes I'll be like, turn your mind off, girl, because this is not your church. This is not your people. This is not your conference. This is not your assignment, right? Because of your gifting, you're always going to see, right? And so because you're always seeing, you're always getting ideas. But this is one thing I had to notice, y'all. I'm going to help somebody. I'm going to free you up. Is also noticing that your assignment, right, is your assignment. And so sometimes you go into spaces and you're like, man, they could have did this a little bit differently. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe they might be called to a different people. They may be called to something else. And so maybe this is why they do it the way that they do it. And so even sometimes going in, even our own minds of how we process things. This is why you got to make sure you write it out. Because writing it out brings clarity. So I have to realize certain things, like that's not my assignment. That's what they're called to do. That's what they do. This is what their thing is. I remember going to a conference and I was like, yeah, all right. But then I had to realize that's not my assignment. This is not what you come here for, right? Come do your assignment and go home. Now, there's other times where God will allow me. That's a lot. This is a lot to unpack. Amen. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, this is I gotta help free us up though, because because we are so gifted, we will waste our poor worrying about things that ain't got nothing to do with us. I've done it. I've been there, right? I've been in spaces where I've wasted my poor, and God had to remind me, baby, that's not your assignment, right? This is what you came here for. This is what you need to do. That's it. But because I am a builder, it's hard for me to sometimes. But again, this is why you got to filter it by writing it down. clarify. All right. All right. I'm almost done, y'all. Thank y'all for rocking it out with me this morning. I told you I'm just trying to be a little consistent, just trying to help y'all build a little bit. And the last part is definitely the run with it, right? To get it out of your head, to build it, to do it. Um, and so that's why it says write the vision, make it plain, and run, right? So our coaching side to that, to the biblical part, is capture, clarify, and execute. All right. So capture the thought, write it out, then clarify it, right? We need to build, we have to build a system, you have to build a strategy around what you see, and then you can execute, right? Today, nothing to do with us. And we leave with the burden we picked up on our own. Listen, I'm trying to help you because I've been there, right? Um, it wasn't ours to carry. It wasn't. But again, and then it's the building part, y'all. We just have to simply execute what we see. So the first thing you have to do is dump it. The second thing you're gonna do is sort it. Then you have to decide it. So is this something I'm doing right now? Is this something I'm waiting on? Is this something I'm deleting out of my memory? Come on, is this something I'm delaying? And then whatever you decide to do, then you build it and then you execute. All right. So again, today's topic was real simple. It was get it out of your head. Um, and really being able to understand that your thoughts cannot live in your head. Some of us, we're just so overwhelmed, we're so exhausted. So I'm like, oh my God, this is so much. And there are some days I literally sit and I'm telling y'all, there's so many tools on your phone that will help you. All right. And so I utilize my notes a lot. Like without my notes, I'm telling y'all now, if I didn't have notes on my phone, I'd probably pass out. I got over 6,000 notes in my phone. And yeah, I don't know what I would do because I just talk it out. I'm like, okay, let me get it out of my head. And then I'll go back and organize. There's sometimes I'm just sitting in the car and I'm like, okay, it's so many thoughts, there's so many things I need to do. So I just release it and then I prioritize it. I'm like, okay, girl, what you working on today? Like even now, like I'm working on, I'm still having to get my kids ready for school. I'm still working 3 days a week in the salon. I still have church, you know. And I'm trying to move my house in 30 days. Okay. So when I say my mind is on 10,000, um, and then coaching. Okay, let's not. And I've slowed up on my coaching. I'm going to pick back up in a little bit, but I've slowed down a lot of my coaching. But I still got coaching clients I have to, I have to take care of. Right, still trying to show up consistently for you guys. And so it's a lot. However, I'm learning to get it out of my head and then prioritize it. So I was like, yesterday I came home and I was like, okay, cool. They got Bible study. So my goal was, okay, girl, you got to get your bedroom done, right? You got to get that bedroom done. Y'all know us ladies, we got a lot of clothes. Man, y'all got a lot of shoes and clothes too, but I got a lot of clothes. And I'm like, Lord, every time I think I'm done, I'm not done, right? But I'm learning priorities. So that's really the priority. So like me like doing content and like getting coaching stuff done right now, honestly, is not a priority for me because that's my focus. So I'm also learning to do what? Delegate, right? So I'm like, my assistant, there's certain things that she doesn't normally do, but I'm like, hey, listen, this week or this month rather, I need you to pick up some more tasks because I'm not able to do some things because my plate looks different. So again, you got to get it out of your head. Know what you have to do. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, I got to do this. I got to call this person. I got to do that. So like I had to write it down. All right, you need to call the movers. You need to call the person that's going to pack your truck. You need to call the people, you know what I'm saying? Like you got to call all these people. I got to call the water. I got to call the electric. Like I got it's so much, right? But if it lives in my head and there is no real clarity around what I see, right? If I don't bring no clarity around what I see, I'm never going to do it. So again, today's message is get it out of your head. And I hope I helped somebody today. I love y'all so much. And so I'm just here to help us build better. And anything that you want to do is not just related to business, ministry, but life in general. Write the vision, make it plain, and run with it, right? And so the coaching world, we say capture it, clarify it, and execute it. All right. So I love y'all so much. I'll talk to y'all soon, probably next week. Y'all keep hanging out with me. Again, these lives are they always live in YouTube. So even if you miss them, I want to go back to watching them. Um, please, you can always go back to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to stay connected, know when we go live, you can type stay connected or text connect to 912-504-2121. And so when I go live, you'll get the reminders. When I have webinars, you'll get the reminders. I'm going to be doing a lot more webinars. My time is going to be looking a little bit different here in the next month or so, being that I'm going to be moving and I won't be here as much. So I have some other weeks I'm going to pick up some more coaching clients. I have not been doing any real one-on-one coaching for the last year. So I'm excited about picking up some more one-on-one. So for those of you that are interested in one-on-one coaching, I'm getting ready to start back up one-on-one coaching again. I'm going to do some group memberships as well. So that's all I got, y'all. But I love y'all so much.